Houston, is there anything else you need on the burn status report?
This is Houston, -11.
Midcourse correction. I think I mentioned it to you some time back. If you recall, when I was in Pueblo, I stayed there for almost 2 weeks because I went up to Boulder to visit some friends when they were at a meeting, and then came back down and stayed a couple days extra in Pueblo. So I was in Pueblo about 12 days, and then if you might remember, when I got to St. Louis, I was a bit under the weather, so I ended up staying there about a week and a half. And there were a couple other places. I forget exactly where. I think one was in was it Garden City? I don't remember. There are another couple places where I stayed an extra couple days. It was either because of the heat or because of the weather. Oh, Durango was one of them. And then also I stayed a couple extra days in Boonville to let Dee catch up. So with those extra days that I took off, it's put me behind. My original plan was to finish the journey sometime during the first part of December. So now, with about being 3 weeks behind or so, maybe a little bit less, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump ahead upriver, figuratively speaking, to Cincinnati, cutting off about 115 miles from the rest of Indiana. And then I'm going to pick back up in Cincinnati and then follow the trail the rest of the way there. And that'll get me back on schedule without any other big jumps. I might have to take a ride of like 5 or 10 miles here and there just to make up some extra mileage, but that'll get me done by the end of the year and not have to extend into January, when the predicted polar coaster is predicted to appear. Some people have said, well, you can still, keep going through January, but just kind of calculating the weather and all that, I think that the mileage that I would make on average in January wouldn't really be a good payoff, because with the weather how it usually is in the east, and then with the expected extra bad weather that might be coming in January, I might be lucky to have 5-mile days, 10-mile days, and then have to take extra days off to wait out the weather. So I figure this is the best thing, just cut off this 125 miles or so, and then get up to Cincinnati and take it back up from there. But I'll definitely come back and go through that section. Just like on the first part of the trip, when I had to jump out of the desert, I'll redo that 4-day section there as well. So anyway, that's the plan. That's the mid-course correction. Get me back on track, and I'm still kind of mesmerized by the Ohio River. Well, that's the Eastern Beltway around the Cincinnati area. Milford is on the other side. So what I'm doing here is I started in Milford today. I skipped the 9 miles walking through the city there in Cincinnati, and got out here to start on the little country roads for the rest of the way through Ohio. And interesting too, yesterday it was 75 was the temperature, and then the storm blew through last night and it rained, and now it's I think it's 40 something, high 40s. And so yeah, long sleeves. I think it's supposed to get down to 36 tonight, and then tomorrow it'll be 50 something, and then it's warming back up to the 60s, and I think there'll be some low 70s in about a week with some rain again. But change of weather. Fall is a-coming, or it is here finally. No more 105 degree heat index days, unless we get surprised, right? So, from Milford and then on now through the rest of eastern of Ohio. Today I'm walking through Batavia, and for all you pilots out there, what's Batavia famous for? If they're still around. I remember back in my pilot days anyway. Sporty's Pilot Shop is in Batavia, Ohio, if I remember correctly. So I'm going through Batavia today to a place called East Fork State Park. And then tomorrow I'm going to a place called Mount Orab. Orab. And then points further on. Hey, remember a while back when I was mentioning how, it might have been on one video or two videos ago, how I've been interested in seeing how the date that these communities, these towns have been established as I go east has been getting older and older. And the last one that I actually had a picture of a sign was back in 1812. And I was wondering to myself when I would get to the first place it was established in the 1700s. Well, I didn't mention it to you, but when I got to Louisville itself was established in 1778, making it one of the oldest cities west of the Appalachians. And then Cincinnati was established in 1788. Now, I didn't see those signs. I just learned about that, but pretty interesting. I'm in 1700s country, but it will be interesting to see the first sign that shows something in the 1700s. That'll be kind of remarkable to me. But yeah, you know, this country of ours, it's really interesting. Sure, you know, back in Europe and in Asia and stuff, they've got places that have been settled for hundreds of years, longer than us, even thousands of years. But when you look at our country's expansion and development, it's just real interesting to see, especially when you're on a slow pace and you're going across the country, how these dates all correspond to history. And it's something that you parents out there, maybe when you're thinking of taking your kids on a vacation, maybe try and wrap up some history lessons in it, if even something really light like that, showing how when you're going further east the communities are getting older, or when you're going further west the communities are newer, and point out to your kids how that corresponds to the history that they have learned or currently are learning or will be learning. It's something really interesting. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. So I guess it's interesting to me. Maybe that'll give me a spark to start studying my American history again. Okay, I have a question for you. The first time I saw these things were in eastern Kansas. And they're hard, not soft, and I guess dropping off this kind of a tree. So, question is, do you know what kind of tree this is? And are these just the seed pods from that tree? So by the way, this is the East Fork of the Miami River. And I'll be paralleling this for most of the day. In fact, that's the campground where I'll be at, East Fork Campground, East Fork State Park. Right now this is on, I believe, Benning Road. Benning Road, Miami Township. Well, this is kind of fun. Somebody has used these to make up for gaps in the fence. Still the East Fork of the Miami River. There's a well pump there. So it looks like it still might work. This is not too far outside of Batavia. All right, this is Main Street on Batavia, or in Batavia, Ohio. It's a nice, clean little town, and this right here behind me is the Claremont County Courthouse. I passed the Sheriff's Department outside of town there. There's a nice clean looking area over there too. And they have a little Korean War memorial. What I noticed here on Main Street, there's a lot of law offices and bail bondsman right there. And this here is more of the courthouse. And we can see here that Batavia was established in 1814. So still looking for that sign to get me into the 1700s. All right, Batavia, Ohio. On to East Fork State Park. And it's been cool today. It's actually been cold. I think it's in the low 50s. Supposed to go down to 36 or 40, something like that. Tomorrow it's going up to 59 or something. Going to be in the 30s again tomorrow. So I'm getting my first cold weather since I've been in Colorado. Actually, the first real cold weather since I've been up in the Rockies. And that was back around Memorial Day. So I got to get used to this, huh? Did somebody say that fall is coming? Finally? Look at that, the leaves changing. All right. I have a feeling that within a couple weeks I probably won't have any trees of any substance to sleep under. Leaving East Fork State Park. See, this connects me into Williamsburg, Windsor, Williamsburg, and then on to Mount Orab, where the police said no, I can't camp on a town park. But I called the St. Michael's Church, and they said, oh, sure, come on in. So I'll be there tonight. Thanks, guys. I believe this is the East Fork, or no, maybe a little tributary of the East Fork of the Miami River. Here's the little town of Williamsburg. I entered it actually in a residential area from the state park. Main Street is up ahead. This must be the park, I suppose. And this would be Main Street in Williamsburg. That's the way I'm going right there towards Mount Orab. Here's the Williamsburg High School. And then pretty nice little gas station. They actually have a extensive menu of chicken there. And then the library across the street. So Williamsburg, Ohio. Now on the Mount Orab. About 8 miles, I think. Turned out to be a nice day. In the 50s. Here's a little bit more of Williamsburg, more than I expected. There's the post office right there. This is Main and 3rd. I guess I was up on closer to Main and 8th up there. Didn't pay attention. And here's the other end of Williamsburg. I'm on Main and Front. Just passing some guy here. He said that building was built, or the front of the building there was built in the 1820s. And here's the community building, and then the police department right down that way. It's a nice, clean little town. Everybody had their Halloween decorations out. On the northern outskirts of Williamsburg, I came across this. Look at this neighborhood from the 180s. Now, to let you know, from where I am in Southern California, there's neighborhoods that are sort of like this. But anyway, same size of houses, and the California lots are much smaller than these lots here. But these houses here are from the 180s. Place them there in Orange County in California. These would be houses starting from the most likely 1.1, 1.2 range and going up from there. Pretty amazing the difference that you get in real estate prices, huh? Hey, I'm kind of excited. Guess what I just learned about Williamsburg? Something that I've been waiting to see along the whole trip, right? Older and older. Guess what? Here's my first town that I've come across that was founded in the 1700s. What do you know? Haha. Dun 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 dun. Williamsburg, you get the prize for being the first town that I've seen that's been founded since before 1800. All right. Let's see how much older we get going east. More soybean fields getting ready to be harvested. I was reading something about a guy taking a train across the country and going across all the fields like this, and he realized, and it really struck him in a way, that the phrase amber waves of grain, you know how often we hear that in the song America the Beautiful. Amber waves of grain, or Purple Mountain's majesty. So I've come to realize this walking across myself, but it's interesting that other people, when they have the concrete evidence of it, of being able to see it, then it just strikes that chord. That's a pretty neato feeling, actually. I don't know why. Coming into Mount Orab here, I'm going to be camping out at the church, and it just so happens that I think, I looked on the satellite map, I think it's positioned perfectly that I will be protected from the northwest wind tonight. And a northwest wind coupled with temperatures of 36, I think, 34 or 36 degrees tonight. That'll keep me a little bit more comfortable. As you can tell by my shadow, only the shadow knows. It's pretty late in the day, and that's because I got a real late start. I didn't even get out of the campground till almost 1 o'clock this afternoon, and that's because I had a real short mileage. I think it was 11 something miles, might have been as much as 12. And it feels nice to be able to do that, just have a short day. But what I've done for pretty much all of Ohio, however, is I've structured it so that for these remaining 2.5 weeks, 2 3/4 weeks really, I've structured it so that when I get to West Virginia, the rest of the trip, rest of the journey, I can have pretty much short days. I'll only have to average about 12 miles through West Virginia, Maryland, DC, and Delaware in order to get done by Christmas or New Year's Eve, somewhere during that week. And that's not counting any shortcuts. So if I concoct some shortcuts through there, maybe I can get my mileage down to an average of 11 miles a day. And that being said, I'm sure that some destinations will have a little bit more mileage just because of the nature of how they fall. But that's okay, because That'll give me smaller mileages than up ahead, or that might give me an extra day off here and there, especially if the weather turns cold. It'll be nice to sleep in a warm bed when it's cold and rainy or cold and snowy, yeah? So that's the plan now. Ohio, I've got about 16 miles, I think, a day average, maybe a little bit more. And now I'm getting into Mount Orab. Mount Orab. I learned that Mount Orab is actually named after Mount Horeb. You know, where God came down onto the mountain with Moses. So, and you know, there's, for those of you that know your Bible history, there's opinions back and forth as to where actually that happened. You know, it's called Mount Sinai most of the time in the Bible, but Mount Horeb is actually in Saudi Arabia, and it's not on the Sinai Peninsula. And there's been archaeological visits and investigations showing that yes, indeed, that that's where it happened in Mount Orab. So, blah, 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 blah. Oh, here comes a car. Don't run over me. So there's your little blurb on Mount Orab, Ohio, and how it got its name. I'm on Main Street right now, getting ready to get up here and turn on High Street. And I'll be at the church. And then, what will I have for dinner? I don't know. There's a place called, there's some sort of chili takeout place across the street. Maybe I'll go there. I don't know. We'll see. Here's what I would consider rush hour in Mount Orab. It's kind of unique, huh? This is High Street. I wondered why it was called High Street, but let me show you here. There's a water tower. This is called High Street because, well, it's actually high. That's where it came from. Pretty interesting. Compact little community. On down that way. Well, I got out of Mount Orab this morning and then down the highway. That highway is pretty busy. Now I'm on this little back road finally to Russellville, Ohio. It's been nice getting away from that traffic. Although there's already been a couple cars that have come through here, so anyway, I think I'll be getting into some rolling terrain here as well. Don't know exactly where I'm going to be tonight. The town or the village offices are closed. I called the sheriff and left a message. They haven't called back, so might just roll the dice and gamble and sleep out in the park and see if anybody rouses me up, or and maybe find another church. Who knows? All right, on to Russellville. About another 10 miles out of the 16 total for today. Here's an interesting non-partisan observation, just simply an observation. When I've been going through these little country roads, even in the towns and the cities, for instance in Cincinnati even, I've been seeing the local election signs, you know, for the local people, like for a township trustee or mayor or whatever. I'll show you. You see these signs right here. But what I've seen a number of, here's another sign. But what I've seen a lot of are these. You know, we're still a year out from the election, and these have been all over the place. Not only just the generic Trump Keep America Great thing, but also Trump 2020. And my observation is also that I have seen no campaign signs on the other presidential candidates. Although in Boonville, Missouri, I did see one Bernie Sanders sticker on a car, but it looked like it may have been a holdover from the last election because it was kind of faded and cracked and chipped a little bit. So just an observation, that's all it is. Perhaps the non-Trump signs will all spring up once that side coalesces around a candidate after the primaries. All right, so I'm in between Mount Orab and Russellville. So this is a nice little road here. It's called Stony Hollow Road. And it's been a nice little change of pace from the past 2 days. The other day, you know, walking from Milford into East Fork Campground, that was just basically, small highways. And then this morning coming out of, and then yesterday afternoon going into Mount Orab was kind of a busy road. And then this morning coming out of Mount Orab was a rather busy little highway. And now these back roads, and look at this. Got their little, I don't know if you call it Halloween or just maybe their fall decorations out. I've seen a lot of this here, especially in this section of southern Ohio. Everybody's pretty decorated up, and they all seem to be, I guess Halloween seems to be a big thing around here. When I was at East Fork Campground, the campground has a Halloween event 2 weekends during the month in October. And this coming weekend is the first one, I believe. Campground's all booked up, and it's a pretty big campground too. And all the campers and trailers there, not all of them, but a large majority of them were decorated, had the lights on and all that. So pretty interesting to see how much more I come across here in the next week and a half or so. Okay, off we go. Well, thought I'd try this shortcut through the cornfield. It takes a little bit longer. Phew. Oh boy. I guess I'll stay on the road. They really stand out against the land. First white cows I've seen. Whole trip. All right. Look, look. Do you see what I see? Yes, my first combine up front. I mean up close. Although I don't know what he's doing. Looks like just throwing everything on the side of the, getting rid of the field, I guess, huh? Plowing it over? Don't know. All right. Soybeans. So I guess maybe what he's doing is, I guess the way it works is he fills up the combine. When the combine gets full, brings the truck over and dumps them out via that into the truck. All right. Okay. That was my entertainment for the day. Finally got to see a combine up close and personal. All right. Russellville, 2 miles. Well, guess what? Got into Russellville and was having something to eat there at the little tavern. The chief of police called me. And he said, now don't shoot the messenger, but I talked to the mayor, and the mayor said, by the way, you can't camp at the park. So I guess it took him all afternoon for the mayor to get back to him or something. So, sorry. So we had another church lined up there in town, but it was just kind of a, I mean, just a sort of kind of, okay type of place. So I asked the chief if he could get a hold of the Mennonite church over here, because I'd been trying to get a hold of them all afternoon with no answer. And so he finally got some numbers, and the Mennonites, I was able to get a hold of them, and they said, okay, yeah, sure, come over. And so guess what? We get to camp here at the Mennonite church tonight with a real nice pavilion. So that's going to protect us from the dew and everything like that. Let me show you what it looks like here. So it's a pretty nice pavilion, and I'm going to camp underneath the pavilion so that I can keep my no tent streak alive. And guess who I met this morning? Dee is back. She happened to be getting into Mount Orab the same day that I got into Mount Orab. Say hello.
Hello.
So she's actually going to camp out here on the grass. She wants to test. She bought this new tent. She got rid of her other one, which was kind of not cooperating. So she's testing that out tonight. So that's why she's sleeping out on the grass. So thank you very much, Stillwater's Mennonite Church in Russellville, and mutual prayers. Dee, something happened to her knee, but it seems to be very, 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 very painful.